Hello everyone. So I wanted to make this short presentation on something I find extremely important in our modern world, and that is what we need to do as pregnant mothers and as parents in general in order to have beautiful and healthy children. So I'm going to touch on some of the aspects that especially what you need to do during pregnancy, what you need to eat, what lifestyle practices you should be looking out for if you want beautiful and healthy children who doesn't have all these childhood diseases that we see today, who don't have behavioral problems, who are growing tall and healthy. Basically, there are certain things that we should be looking into if this is what we want for our children, which I'm guessing most people do. So let's just get straight into it. I have these pictures here, which I know I show them in almost all my videos at this point, but they are just so good at showing how impactful these things are, especially in children, and especially the things we are going to talk about today. So we have people here on the left side who have been on nutrient dense and traditional diets, and their mothers were on these diets as well when they were pregnant with the children. And as you can see, they came out very great, these children. Their facial structure were very good, their teeth fit perfectly in their mouth. Everything is basically as it should be, as nature intended. And you can see on the left we have the malnourishing modern diet, which is from the same parts of the world where these children were raised. And when modern foods came in, they essentially started suffering. Their teeth started being very misformed. Their facial structure started becoming sort of weird, and they started getting all these modern diseases as well that the children on the left weren't seeing. And basically what it came down to was that the children on the left, their mothers were on very specific diets, and they had this traditional wisdom of what to eat and what the body needed during pregnancy, and all these nutrient dense animal foods especially, which really builds everything that the child becomes and needs to become inside of the womb. So we're going to look into these nutrient dense animal foods and why they're so important. On this slide you can see what made these indigenous children so perfect, and it's basically what I just said. It's high quality and nutrient dense animal foods. So what do we have here? We have milk, we have eggs, we have cheese, we have butter. Especially these are four things that I would highly recommend you consume on a daily basis. You really want to be picky with the quality of these things, especially when pregnant. So with milk, for example, you want to be looking for organic milk. You want raw milk ideally. Maybe go to local farms and find the best possible milk you can get. Same goes for butter and for dairy. And with eggs, again, be extremely picky with the quality. You want organic pasture-raised eggs. You don't want it to be fed soy and other things like this, because it's going to be very damaging for the child's endocrine system and its hormones, and it's going to come out with all different types of complications and misdevelopments basically. So why you want these foods is basically the nutrient density of them. I'm going to link in the description a lot of the scientific research and other stuff, really the details of all these things and why you want to be eating them, because I can't possibly get into all of it in this video. So you can look into that for more, basically more stuff on this. You can see beside these things we have liver, which is really the star of the show. These people, traditional people especially, they would really prioritize liver, especially for pregnant women, because of the nutrient density of it. They really saw it as something sacred when it came to building healthy and beautiful children. So we know today that liver is by far the most nutrient dense food that you could possibly eat. It has so many important nutrients, especially for pregnant women. So high in vitamin A, so high in vitamin B12, so high in most minerals. It basically has everything that you need as a child to grow inside of the womb of the mother. So highly recommend you as a pregnant woman get some liver in. I would say once or twice a week. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like liver. I think it tastes disgusting, and most people are like that today. If you really don't like it, you can mix it into certain things like meatloaf. You can puree it. You can even just eat it and swallow it with water, like a pill almost. The important is that you're getting it in. And if you're really disgusted by the thought of eating liver, you can look into certain pills which have dried liver in capsules, basically, that you just take. Ideally, I would say get fresh liver, but if that's not possible, like these pills are another good option. And again, you want to be so picky with the quality of liver, because if you think about what liver actually is the filtration system of the animal. So it's the part of the body that filtrates all the toxins that come into the animal. So if you have an unhealthy cow, let's say, that have been exposed to a lot of toxins, the liver is going to be full of toxins as well, and the animal is going to be sick, and the liver is going to be sick, and that's not what you want to be eating. So get grass-fed liver from cows who have been raised properly, basically. And then below this, we have cod liver oil. Another very, very, very important aspect of developing the brain of children is omega-3 in the form of DHA, which you get a lot from cod liver oil. And it's just such a good option to really consume daily in small amounts. It's what I recommend. And besides this, we also have fish eggs, caviar, which have similar attributes as cod liver oil, filled with omega-3, filled with other nutrients and minerals that are so important for the development of the child. So these two things very good as well to incorporate. And then above my cam here, we have some meat, basically lamb and beef, these fatty cuts of meat. Again, I'm really prioritizing the fat of these animal foods because that is where all the nutrients are and the nutrients that builds the child. So a lot of the cholesterol, for example, we're told not to eat cholesterol, or we were told, but as it turns out, cholesterol is insanely important for building children, especially in the womb. Basically, the baby is made out of cholesterol, so you need a lot of dietary cholesterol to support the growth if you want a healthy and well-developed child. So really get these fatty animal foods in and incorporate these into your diet. These foods right here are going to be the major components of really building healthy children. So really encourage people to get these foods in, especially things like liver, cod liver oil, but really everything on this page is things you want to be prioritizing even before pregnancy. The traditional mothers in these societies, they would start on this diet 6 months before pregnancy, and they would also feed their children these things in their developmental years. So it really is what creates these healthy looking and very well developed children. So I'm going to move on now to some other good additions. I have kefir, which is just so important for pretty much everyone, but especially also pregnant women. So I highly recommend you just start making this. I have a lot of videos on it you can look into. I won't touch too much on why it's so important. Basically, it comes down to the bacteria and the probiotics, which are so desperately needed in our modern world, and especially for the children as well. It really has a lot to say on all the microbiomes in the children and even the brain and stuff like that. So if I could only recommend one thing, it would honestly be kefir, because it's just such an amazing addition to anyone's diet. So look into kefir. If you're not too big into kefir, at least look into some other probiotic options, some fermented foods like sauerkraut or other fermented stuff. We also have tallow, coconut oil, and lard, and these are things you can use for cooking in and adding more fat. Again, we want as much fat as possible, and these also have small amounts of nutrients that are good. But basically, this is what you would be using as a cooking oils. Stay away from all the seed oils, obviously, and all the terrible stuff. Stick to these things: coconut oil, lard, and beef tallow. And again, high quality grass-fed, pasture-raised pigs and organic coconut oil is what you want. Then we have salt. We are often also told that salt is bad and we should stay away from it or whatever. And that can be further from the truth. Salt is very essential today, especially for hormones, and also very important for pregnant women. So obviously you don't want to be eating spoons and spoons of salt, but eat salt to taste and as much as you crave it. And get your salt in. It's very important for the hormonal function of yourself and of your child. Same with iodine, so important for the proper development of the child in the womb. It's been shown that children or mothers who are low on iodine when they're pregnant, the children will come out with lowered intelligence, impaired brain function, all these terrible things. So iodine, another thing that is just so important. I talk about this in some of my other videos as well. Magnesium as well, just in general, a very important mineral to supplement today for everyone basically, but also for pregnant mothers. I have a video on this as well if you want to learn more about that. Then we have bone broth, another very good addition you could make, filled with minerals, filled with electrolytes, filled with a lot of collagen and stuff that really builds the baby as well. Fresh fruit and vegetables, other good options, but if you're not having all these other stuff, it doesn't really matter with all the fresh fruit and vegetables you eat, because it's not stuff that your child is going to use in the womb. It's not stuff that you even yourself can use to build this healthy child that you want. So I'm going to move on now to just talk a bit more about the quality aspect. I've already said most of this, but really stay away from soy. You want soy-free eggs, you want organic as much as it's possible. You want grass-fed as much as possible. You want pasture-raised, highest quality as possible. Go to organic farms in your area. Look out for local farms. As I've said so many times now, get the highest quality you have access to. And especially with seafood, this is important. So I didn't put seafood on the first slide, but seafood is another thing that is extremely important for pregnant women to prioritize and eat. But the thing with most seafood today and salmon and stuff like this is it comes from polluted oceans, which is very high in heavy metals and stuff, which you don't want, to say the least, as a pregnant woman. So again, you want to be very picky with where this seafood comes from. You want, if it's salmon, maybe you want wild-caught salmon to be totally sure. You want it from oceans which are non-polluted, basically. So be picky with your options, but know that seafood is another very good thing to add, filled with minerals and other good vitamins for the baby to grow, probably. But obviously, you don't want all the toxins in there. So then we have a bit about pregnancy superpowers. So why do pregnant women crave pickles, ice cream? Why do they crave chips and chocolate and all of this? It's sort of a common thing to talk about with pregnancy. And really what it comes down to is the sort of superpowers that your body gets when you get pregnant. Your body gets into this super intuitive state where it's like the baby inside of you is screaming at you, oh, I need this to build this part of my body, or I need this food to build this part of my brain, or this nutrient to build such and such. And what's basically happened is that we've moved into this modern environment where we have all these different foods that are devoid of any nutrition at all. So if you see a woman, for example, this woman on the picture, she is craving chocolate, so she goes to buy some milk chocolate. But if we think about it, why is this woman craving chocolate? Could it be something in the chocolate that the child desperately needs or her body desperately needs? Could be magnesium and copper, for example, which is very high in chocolate. And she's not going to satiate those nutrients with this milk chocolate because it doesn't have any of those, especially processed junk, which is just going to fill her with toxins mostly. And so what you really want to be doing with these cravings is understand the underlying mechanism of why you're craving certain things. So in this case, maybe she should eat some very dark chocolate. Maybe she should just straight up take the magnesium and copper supplements and see if that satiates anything and if the craving go away. She's also craving chips. We know that chips today, all of them are fried in seed oils and very high fatty, these terrible oxidized oils, which we want to stay away from. But basically, she's probably craving fat. So maybe you want to increase your animal fat from the eggs, from the dairy and the cream and all this we talked about earlier to really get what your body actually is screaming for and needing. And with pickles, maybe you're craving beneficial bacteria. Maybe you want some fermented foods, some kefir. And that's really what's going to help the child. All these other stuff is not going to help your child. So that's basically the point of this slide is you need to understand the underlying craving, the underlying cause, of the craving that you're having. And that can be a bit tough if you don't know a lot about nutrition, but there's always ways to get closer to it and get closer to what you actually need. We could also see it with things like ice cream. A lot of pregnant women, they crave ice cream. Why do they do that? We know ice cream is pretty much made of milk, cream, and eggs. There's a lot of animal fat and animal products. So if you're craving ice cream, it's probably your body screaming for animal fat. And it's just screaming at the most calorically dense version of that it has in its memory. And that's ice cream. So you go and buy Ben & Jerry's, but you don't satiate any of that because it's not filled with these high quality animal products. It's filled with all this other stuff. So you satisfy the craving shortly, but the nutrient requirement is still there, is what I'm trying to say. So I hope this made sense, and it's just a very important aspect of pregnancy, in my opinion. So this was sort of the nutrient part of pregnancy and what you need to be doing to satiate all the different vitamins and minerals that the child needs. But now we're going to move into another very important part of pregnancy nowadays, sort of a more modern problem, and that is the importance of detoxing. So I have this whole video presentation where I go in depth with how you detox and what you need to be doing to really get these things out of your body, which I recommend you watch for much of this knowledge. But I will just quickly say that heavy metals are one of the things that especially is going to impact the children, and especially the intelligence, the growth, and the social behavior of the child. If heavy metals is high in the mother, it can develop things like autism and all these other neurological dysfunctions, which are not too good. And basically the best way we have to get rid of these is, in my opinion, the Zeolite, and specifically the PBX Zeolite, which I highly recommend you look into as a pregnant mother. It's extremely safe to take for anyone, even children, and it's just very good at detoxing these heavy metals, and it's pretty much the only options we have. So look into PBX Zeolite. I'll put the link in the description here as well, and it's something I really encourage people, pretty much everyone, to look into, but especially pregnant mothers, because you want to protect your child of these many toxins and heavy metals in particular. Then we go into something a bit different, which is EMF protection, which I haven't talked about much on this channel, honestly, but my next video is going to go heavy into this and why it's so important. So I won't go into too much about what it actually is and why it's damaging, because that's a long story. But what you want to do to protect your child from these, and why you want to protect your child from these radioactive waves and this radiation, is because it can again cause misformed and misalignments in the child. It can form its brain will not function properly, and all these things. It's basically the same problems we run into, because these frequencies essentially fry the child inside of the womb slowly. The child is very unprotected. It doesn't have all obviously it hasn't grown much yet, so it doesn't have all the protection it needs. So you really want to be extra careful with these radio waves. So what can you do? You can at least put your devices on airplane mode when you're not using them. Keep them as far away from the belly as possible. Especially when you sleep, I highly recommend you remove all wireless devices. Even if you're not pregnant, you're going to sleep much better. I highly recommend you unplug your bedroom. So that means taking everything out the switch, because there's actually a small radioactive field around the switches as well, where the plug is in the wall. So just take those out when you sleep, and you have minimized a lot of the radiation in the bedroom. And you should also really be looking into shielding of the room, so you can get fabrics and blankets and whatnot to actually protect against EMF. They're essentially made out of silver and sometimes some other stuff. And you want to really be putting those around the belly. For example, if you're out shopping or you are in some other high EMF environment, you want to be wearing this fabric around the room, basically, to protect the child. It's very important, and it's really going to help your child develop properly and not get become interfered with all these terrible radio waves that we have added to our environment. And I won't touch too much more about this. It's just know that it's a very, very important thing, and it's not just something that we can neglect in our modern environment, and it's something that gets worse and worse every month, basically. So you really want to protect your child as much as possible from this. And that's basically what I had in this presentation. Here in the last slide, I just have some further reading if you are more interested in all the stuff I've talked about. On the left, I have this book called The Nourishing Traditions Book of Baby and Childcare, which is a very good book, which talks about all these different foods I have mentioned so far. I also have these 2 articles, which goes into all the scientific data and evidence and all this stuff about all the foods I've mentioned. And I'm going to link those in the description as well. So I highly encourage you to look into those if you are interested in detailed aspects of everything I've talked about here. And yes, that's basically it. So I hope that you found this video helpful. If you are pregnant, or you're planning to become pregnant, or you just need nutritional help as a normal person, you can hit me up by the link in the description below, and we can have a 30-minute call, and I can sort of talk about what I can do for you and all that sort of stuff. So do that if you wish. Otherwise, just stay healthy.